The Illini football season kicks off in just a couple days, and let me tell you, I got some bold predictions.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Illini. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single day. Simple reminder, we are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Sunny Verma. You can also find me at IlliniCast and also the Sunny V on Twitter. I would love to hear your feedback. It's the quickest way to get in contact with me. But also, as of last week, you can find me on Facebook. The link should be in the description. Like our Locked On Illini football page, you'll know exactly when we go live, and I'll be able to answer any questions that you might have or any questions you may pose for a show moving forward. We got a fun episode for you today. As I said, there's only a couple days left till the football season starts, and there's a couple bold predictions I want to make about the upcoming season. And it being Tuesday, that means we're going to have my good friend Big Ten Ted join us as we have a Big Ten outlook, a college football outlook, and finally, we get to preview some Big Ten games for this upcoming weekend. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now, through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. So, bold predictions, 2024. Where should I start? I think I'm going to go ahead and start with what I think is most achievable. I think a lot of you already know where I'm kind of going with this one. I've been talking about him almost nonstop for the last couple weeks, and I'm talking about Kaden Feagin. I really think that we have a star in the making. And while he's being recognized by other media pundits out there, and he's kind of recognized as one of Illinois' playmakers for this upcoming season, I don't think he's getting the proper credit that he deserves. I really think that Brett Bielema thinks he has something special in Kaden, and Kaden ultimately might go down as one of Brett's all-time best running back, if not the all-time best running back. What's my bold prediction for Kaden? My prediction is this year, Kaden Feagin ends up being on the all Big Ten team. Now, this would be quite a daunting feat. Ohio State's got some excellent running backs on their roster, multiple. In the Big Ten in general, there's plenty of good, solid running backs that are returning to their teams from last season. Now, of course, this all comes with the caveat that Kaden doesn't get hurt. Last year, the offense essentially turned around once he got his feet settled and became our starting running back. And then he got hurt. If he's able to stay healthy this upcoming season, I think he'll easily clear 1,000 yards. But I think he may come close to 1,200 yards. He's a big boy. He has physical attributes that are on par with guys you see in the NFL. And if you don't believe me, believe Brett Bielema, who told me that exact quote at Big Ten Media Days about a month ago. I really think that Illinois' offense, which I'm going to be getting to shortly, is being very overlooked right now. And I think our offensive line is something that is not given enough credit. I think J.C. Davis, along with Kreutz, they're going to all get better this upcoming year, and the offensive line is going to be one of the better ones in the Big Ten, and that's going to lead Kaden Feagin to have an outstanding year for the Illini. Prediction number 2, kind of piggybacking on the Kaden Feagin prediction. I think the Illini offense is going to be top 6 in the Big Ten. Again, I think the offense here is being overlooked drastically. Luke Altmaier, I've talked about him ad nauseum at this point. I think the national perception of Luke is a lot worse than what the perception of Illinois fans are. A lot of people out there think Luke Altmaier lost his job at the end of last season, when really, in reality, it was just John Paddock doing his best late 90s Kurt Warner impression. I think Luke now, in his last 6 starts last year, Luke Altmaier had 10 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. And that's because Illinois had finally found a running game. And Illinois had finally figured out who was going to play where on that offensive line. Well, next year, I think both the offensive line and the running game are going to be improved even more so. With the addition of Zachary Franklin, the maturation of Pat Bryant, and hopefully a leap from Malik Elzy, I think that the offense has some very solid, decent weapons all over. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like our defense is going to be one of the better ones in the conference. And so our offense is going to be carrying a lot of the work. They're going to be forced to constantly be aggressive and try to put points on that board. So I think I'm probably the only guy out there, and sure, top 6 is a pretty aggressive guess, but there's 18 teams in the Big Ten now. Essentially what I'm saying is I think we're going to be in the top 1/3 of the conference. And when you look at it that way, I'm pretty comfortable with that prediction. And finally, my third and final bold prediction for this episode, at least. I think the Illini are going to beat Michigan at the 100-year anniversary game. I have several reasons for believing so. And I'm fully admitting that this is the one that probably has the least amount of chance happening. But we know Michigan is the national champions. We know that when it comes to the roster, their roster is substantially better than ours. Now, if you watch me on my other show, the Big Ten show, you may know that I'm not quite as high on Michigan as a team as most national people are. And simply because I just want to see how much of the last couple of years had to do with Jim Harbaugh. The fact that Sharon Moore won a couple games as head coach last year means very little to me, especially when it comes to college football. We know Jim Harbaugh was coaching the team up until Friday night, if not Saturday morning. And sure, it was Sharon Moore simply standing in the sidelines in Jim's place, but it was still Jim Harbaugh's team. Sharon Moore is now the head coach. It's now his program. Every single day during the week, he's the man in charge. Can he do it? Sure. Are the expectations going to be pretty high in Ann Arbor? Absolutely. You're defending national champions. For me, on the Michigan side, I think they're going to be a good team, but I think they're going to be closer to a 9-win team. And I think Illinois, almost the entire season, is geared up towards that one game. It's going to be a celebration. You already see it now with the special jersey that we're going to be wearing for that game. And you know the week leading up to it, there's going to be promotions left and right. It's going to be a sold-out crowd at Memorial Stadium. Hopefully the energy will be high. I think every year that Brett and Illinois win one game that they're not necessarily supposed to. And for some reason, I have a hunch that this year it's going to be that game against Michigan. Let me know your thoughts. Am I crazy? Is there any chance that we beat Michigan this year? What about Caden Fagan? Are you guys as high on Caden as I am? And what about this offense? I want to hear your bold predictions. Let me know what you think. The season's just a couple days away now, 2 days away. Time to make your predictions now, lock them in, and then we'll all laugh about it at the end of the year. Want to get in shape but having trouble staying motivated? Make 5-Hour Energy Shots part of your lifestyle and get the energy boost you need to get fit. We all know you sometimes do not want to go to the gym. Take a 5-Hour Energy Shot to give you the feeling and alertness so you can get to the gym. With zero sugar and a convenient portable size, it's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. The 5-Hour Energy website has flavors galore like watermelon, tropical burst, grape, berry, and more. There's a flavor for everyone. Try them all. On the site, you even have the option to build your own 12-pack or 24-pack. You choose the flavors, and it's delivered right to your door. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that is the number 5hourenergy.com, and get a 5-Hour Energy product today, you can use my promo code Locked On CFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with any other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. All right, it's Tuesday, and it's the last Tuesday before the Illini season starts. And so I've made my bold predictions. Now I want to hear the bold predictions of my good friend Ted from the Big Ten Ted channel. Ted, how goes it today?
I'm doing great. We're going to be talking about your bold predictions, as you said. And I one thing before we really tackle them and go really do a dive deep into those, I appreciate the boldness, putting a capital B in bold. Sometimes we got bold predictions of saying, yeah, USC is going to beat Penn State at home. I'm like, come on. We need better than that. We need to go all out. These are bold predictions after all. So, but yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to talk football. I'm excited for games this week. What do we got? 4 straight days, Thursday, Friday, wonderful. Saturday, and Sunday of Big Ten football games. So I'm ready to go.
Exactly. I've already told the wife I'll see her in about 5-6 months.
Bye.
Yeah. It was, take care of the kids. So Ted, okay, you talked about, you heard my first 3 bold predictions. I'm not saying you have to mirror any of them, but I'd love to hear your feedback.
Okay, so let's talk first about that game that you said, the Michigan-Illinois game, right? Sure. The team aspect of this. There's going to be a lot of, like you mentioned, there's going to be a lot of excitement and energy over that Red Grange game, and I can see where you're certainly going with all of that. And the last time these two teams met, a couple of years back in Ann Arbor, Illinois, nearly cost Michigan a shot at a college football playoff berth. I believe that was the week before they played Ohio State. That season needed a Jake Moody walk-off field goal to be able to win that one. And like that game, it's going to be a battle of smash mouth football, right? Brett Bielema and then Sharon Moore on the other side. This is as tough and physical of head coaching philosophies as they come. And, Michigan coming off of a bye the week before, so that's usually a spot where people avoid, hey, it's not going to happen. They got 2 weeks to prepare, but that game is smack dab in the middle of Washington, on the road at Washington, which some people out there are pegging as possible upset for the Wolverines. And then it's right before Michigan State, right? I know Michigan State certainly is not the team that they were under Mark D'Antonio, but it's a rivalry game, right? And maybe peeking around the corner just a little bit there. So that's an interesting spot, I think, for that. And then when you look at Illinois' offense, that prediction that you made, top third, which is the top 6 in the Big Ten Conference. Now, I think in order for that to happen, this past game, I think really needs to take a significant step forward. Okay, Luke Altmaier really needs to take a step forward as a passer. We know what he can do with his mobility. We know what he can do with his legs. Like, I love that part of his game, and I hope Barry Lunny Jr. incorporates more designed stuff with Luke Meier's legs this season, RPO stuff, read stuff, where he can really take advantage of that. But when I look at that, I think if that's the case, Zachary Franklin is a 1,200-yard receiver. He is everything and more as advertised. Somebody else steps up outside of Pat Bryant, whether it be LZ or somebody else. There's been some excitement on Illini country. Kanari Wilcher is a guy as well, that the freshman last year that could maybe step up into a bigger role this season. So that's what I see with that. This is a team that if they are a top 6 offense, they're well balanced. Luke Altmaier and this passing game takes huge steps up, and this run game probably has to be top 3, 4 in the Big Ten at that point. And Caden Fagan needs to be, 12, 13, 1,400 yard guy. Not saying these things can't happen, but once again, putting the capital B in bold, which I appreciate.
Exactly. And I completely agree with you. Like, for that second prediction to hit, it's going to be on the shoulders of Luke Altmaier. Yeah. I'm very confident in our running back room. I think with the addition of Zachary Franklin, teaming him up with Barry Lunny Jr., we've seen the success that's had in the past. What I'm essentially counting on with making that bold of a prediction is Luke is able to make that leap in his second full season as a starter. Like, he was a good quarterback last year. I talked about it in the first segment. In his last 6 games, he threw 10 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. Once the offensive line was settled, once the running back room, Caden Fagan's emergence happened, Luke turned into a pretty solid quarterback. What I'm counting on him in his second year is to be able to make quicker decisions. Seeing John Paddock being one of the quickest from, hike to throw to making a decision, I hope that Luke jotted down notes and basically he's able to make that adjustment in his game. And if he is, then I really don't think my top 6 is that out of the question.
And I think, there's kind of a backside to this, a side B to that prediction as well. Some offenses that are projected to be really good this season do not hit, right? I think one of those being Washington, right? Maybe they have issues up front on the offensive line that really rear their ugly head. Like offensive and defensive line are question marks. They're concerns for the Huskies this season. Of course, we're taking injuries out of the equation, but Will Rogers, he can't adjust to maybe his air raid system that he had at Mississippi State, and now it's more decision-based RPO type of stuff in the system with Brendan Carroll as the coordinator, and of course Jed Fish as the head coach. So you look at that. UCLA is a team with a lot of weapons that could maybe be up there as well. But once again, maybe a few question marks up front on the offensive line. Maybe they don't gel. Eric Bieniemy, right? They're hearing some things out of Bruins camp where you've got things that are a lot more complex, right? There's a lot of more words in the play call and things that Garbers and company really have to know. So maybe that makes things a little bit more complicated and they don't hit like they could as well. So you feel pretty good about teams like Oregon, Ohio State, and USC are certainly going to be in that group. But who's going to be able to creep up into that next group? Penn State. Do they get it going or do they stay kind of where they were last season, a little bit stagnant? But I think they are going to take that step up. Penn State, that's 4. There's still 2 spots left at that point. And if everything clicks, like you said, Illinois definitely could find themselves into that group.
And I think a lot of people forget that. I think Illinois finished like 4th or 5th in the conference last year in passing. So again, obviously a lot of that had to do on the backs of John Paddock, those last couple of games, throwing for 500 plus yards. But Barry Lunney Jr. has kind of settled in as offensive coordinator. He had an up and down first year, and then he kind of settled into situations last year. He's got a returning quarterback, a returning star receiver from his previous stop. I don't know. I'm kind of optimistic. Lastly, let's just hear your opinions on the Caden Fagan.
Yeah, I think Fagan can be great this season. I really do. When he's running behind a really good offensive line, like if there's one thing that Brett Bielema knows, it's certainly the offensive line. Like the challenge for Caden Fagan this year will be staying healthy, right? He couldn't do that last year, but he's the RB1. And when I take a look at some of these, because the thing is, there's some guys, there's elite run games in the Big Ten. I look at Ohio State and Penn State are clear examples, I think, for me. Trevion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, there's a world, I'm not saying it's a realistic world, there's a world where neither of those guys gets 1,000 yards because one of them gets 950, the other gets 850, and Will Howard gets another 400, right? That's a world that could exist. When you look at Penn State, Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, like if you combine, they've been on campus for 2 years, right? A potential with 2 guys, that's a potential for 4 years. One of those 4 has been a 1,000-yard season, and it was last season, or I should say 2 years ago, the freshman season, I should say, for Nicholas Singleton, right? So those have been 800, 700, 900-yard type of seasons as well. When you take a look at, I think, some of the top running back seasons potential in the Big Ten, Caden Fagan has to be up there. He has to be. Darius Taylor has to be up there with Minnesota. Of course, Donovan Edwards over there at Michigan, right? Even at a place like Oregon with maybe the best offensive line in the conference, Jordan James, Noah Whittington. Don't forget about Division II transfer Jay Harris, who I think is going to be in the mix. So a lot of these teams that are going to be in contention, I think have a lot of depth in the running back room. Right. You could even go to a place like a Wisconsin, right, that has 2 guys with Tawee Walker and Ches Malusi, and then there's some freshmen in that room as well. Like you could go on from the team to the next team. Michigan State has a really good duo as well. Now, the issue with that, we saw it last year with Minnesota. Darius Taylor goes down, and then what happens, right, when you don't have that depth, when you really lean on that RB1. But if Caden Fagan can stay healthy, I certainly think that he could be, one of the leaders in terms of rushing in the Big Ten.
All right, so you heard my big, bold prediction set. Let's hear a couple of yours.
Yeah, so I put this out about a month and a half ago. Maybe it was even 2 months ago. Who will be the leading passer in the Big Ten? Who will be the leading rusher in the Big Ten? We'll start with rusher. I mentioned his name before. Unfortunately for fans of this program, it was not Caden Fagan. I had Darius Taylor leading the Big Ten in rushing, right? Similar to where Illinois is, good offensive line and a back that's going to be the feature back. I see that with Darius Taylor. Right. This is a really good offensive line. There's a lot of size. There's a lot of experience up there for Minnesota. And Darius proved that, man, when he's in games and he's healthy, he can rush for 170. He can rush for 180. He can rush for 200 yards in a football game if everything is going the right way. And when you look at PJ Fleck and how he calls the game, he wants to be physical. He wants to run the football, right? That's, I think, the recipe that you need to be the leading rusher in the Big Ten. You need a coach and a philosophy that's going to lean into it. You need a good offensive line. You need a good back. Now, Illinois kind of checks those three boxes as well. Michigan is certainly in that conversation as well. So that's on the running game side. That it would not surprise me to see Darius Taylor be the Big Ten rushing champ. Now, this might be. It's not as bold, I will say. Maybe this is a medium-sized B. We talk about you with the capital B, and then maybe some folks have had the lowercase b. So this is a little bit of a medium here. Miller Moss leading the Big Ten in passing. Well, it's USC. It's Lincoln Riley, so that's not that bold. But a lot of people, and myself included, a lot of people love Dylan Gabriel. They're looking at him as a Heisman Trophy candidate, and a lot of people are already pegging Oregon. Okay, I put them number one in my offense power rankings because of what they have in Dylan Gabriel. And then you look at all the weapons on the outside, Tez Johnson to Evan Stewart coming in, to Gary Bryant, to Trayshawn Holden. You look at all of these guys. How can they not be the number one offense, passing offense, I should say, passer for Dylan Gabriel in the Big Ten Conference? I think they're going to be a little bit more balanced than some people think, right? This Oregon offense, this Will Stein offense is predicated short, efficient type of stuff. And I think that fits in with what Dylan is in this offense this year. But I look at Miller Moss. I think USC is going to be leaned on to throw the ball more. I don't think their run game or their offensive line are nearly as good as Oregon is this season. So I think that kind of leans into what Miller wants to do and what USC and how they're going to be formed this season. So it's not the biggest of bold predictions, but with everybody just backing in on Oregon right now, we'll call it semi-bold, maybe for them to be there right now. A lot of people, I think it was bold at the time. I don't think it's as bold anymore for Indiana to be a 6 to 8 win team. I really love what they've done. I really love Kurt Cignetti and what he's done with this program right now. Like, they quietly have a top 5 receiving core in this conference. They do, man. If Elijah Surratt steps up and is that big time guy, being able to bring back Donovan McCulley is a huge keep as well. There's a lot of depth in that room. It's going to depend to Curtis Rourke to really take that next step up. So those are just a few of the bold predictions. You know, a lot of Indiana getting to a bowl game, Rutgers winning 9 games, Nebraska being in the playoff. It's not really that bold anymore. Everybody's kind of talking about it. So you really got to step outside the box on some of these.
Let's have a prediction for this upcoming season. Who do you have winning the conference? And let's just say, who do you have winning it all?
Yeah, so once again, it's boring. We talked about bold with a capital B. This might be boring with a capital B. Everybody's got Ohio State and Oregon, and I do too, but for good reason. I mean, those two teams are national championship contenders. I think, I'm not much of one to put out because it's a lot of work to predict all the other conferences and then make the 12-team bracket. But there's a very real possibility. And kind of the way I predicted it game by game, week by week, I had Ohio State going on the road to Austin on October 12th, getting the win there. Oregon comes back into Indy. They get the win in Indianapolis. So the Ducks in their first year, it kills my traditional Big Ten heart to do it. But I just whoever wins in Austin, I just think the other team's going to win. It's going to be very difficult to beat whatever team is going to beat the other team twice. So I've got the Ducks winning there. Oregon might get the 1 seed at that point. Okay, Ohio State would be the 5. Both of them win, get to the semifinals. They can meet for a third time Or if it goes in the other side, maybe Oregon's the 2, Ohio State's the 6, or however that matches up. I could see these teams meeting 3 times this season. And then when you get to the rubber match, maybe that's a problem for future Big Ten Ted to figure out at that point. But that's kind of how I have it going down. Other contenders, Michigan is a contender. There's too many questions at quarterback right now for me, to really put them into that type of tier and that type of discussion. And just, they do bring a lot back, but I just don't think it's enough. Ohio State and Oregon's rosters are just loaded at every position. They're loaded. Some of the best in their program's histories, and that's saying a lot. And then Penn State is sitting there as well. When I look at the Nittany Lions, I could possibly see it. Drew Aller needs to be one of the best quarterbacks in the conference, maybe a top 10 quarterback in the country. But with Andy Kotelnicki coming in, that could possibly happen. Like, there's a lot of things for Penn State where it's like, okay, yeah, the puzzle pieces are aligned. They just need to be connected, right? You got a dynamic duo. You got quarterback, receivers need to step up. Offensive line needs to step up a little bit, but that defense is going to be great yet again. But at USC, at Wisconsin, at Minnesota, maybe late in the year, can they avoid an upset? I think that's a big thing. We know all about James Franklin, right? He's had trouble getting over the hump. Can he do it this time? He could be 11-1. They could rematch with Ohio State. So I just think those teams, talent-wise, roster-wise, they're just below. In my opinion, they're just a little bit below Ohio State and Oregon right now. So Ohio State wins that one in the regular year. Oregon wins that. And then I think there's a really good shot one of these two teams could win the national championship when all is said and done.
This is how you know that Ted and I don't do any pre-interviews. My bold prediction for the Big Ten was essentially going to be what you just said. I thought that one of the teams was going to win between Oregon and Ohio State, and then the opposite team would actually win the national championship. And so in my official predictions, I actually have Oregon winning the regular season game. Mm-hmm. And then I have Ryan Day finally getting over the hump and winning the national championship this year. The Buckeyes finally, with that aggressive investment that they made over this offseason, they get to respond to Michigan's championship last year with one of their own. All right, Ted, I'm looking at the clock and we've already gone over. So we'll save your Big Ten preview week 1 for a bonus episode later. Ted, let the folks know where they can find you and what's going on at your channel.
Yeah, here coming up tonight, Big Nation number 3, previewing 2 out of the 3 games I'll be previewing this week. Minnesota and North Carolina. Could be a little bit rainy in Minneapolis that night when they play on Thursday night. Also big noon, Penn State and West Virginia. I'll be breaking down those matchups as well. Going over what does each team want to accomplish? What are some goals that each Big Ten team, all 18 of them, take a deep breath, Ted. What do they all want to accomplish in week number 1? So Big Nation here coming up, and then Thursday previewing USC and LSU amongst other topics as well. And then I'll be on site for Minnesota and North Carolina. I'm ready to go, man. I'm excited. I'm mentally at Huntington Bank Stadium already.
Ted, as always, I appreciate you coming on. Hey, Locked On Illini fans, I want to take a moment to give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love as much as I do. Ultimate College Football Head Coach. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being the head coach of the Illini? From recruiting players and hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps and handling school scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Will you be able to handle the pressure? And here's what I really love about the game. You're responsible for calling offensive plays during the game. Your strategy will not only determine the success of your football season, but will shape the future and legacy of your program. Ultimate College Football HD is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. You can play on the go, as you want, and when you want to. And of course, we have a special offer for Locked On Illini fans. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk as it will get your team off to a strong start. To download the game, just visit ultimate-cfb.com or look it up on the app stores. Ultimate College Football HC. Begin your coaching legacy today. And that just about wrapped it up for today's episode. We went a little long on this second segment, so I'm going to have the Big Ten preview with Ted in a separate bonus episode. That's right, we're going to get a bonus episode this week. Again, on your way out, if you can hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, I would sincerely appreciate it. It costs you guys absolutely nothing, and I think as of this recording, we're at 1,040 subscriptions. Amazing. Thank you all so much. We'll be here every single day, as we always are. Remember, the only daily YouTube Illini content show that there is. And we will continue to be with your support. Until next time, ILL, love you guys.